Aboro aboye. Aboye aboshisho. Peace and blessings to everybody. Just gonna give people a little time to join us, be a part of the conversation. Pray all is well with you and your loved ones. And you've awakened today with vision, purpose, inspiration, focus, support, challenges, tests that will shore up your conviction, strengthen your resolve, reveal to you the values and the habits that are necessary to accomplish that which you are destined to accomplish. This is a good day to be alive. This is the ideal time to be alive. This is the best time to be you. This is the best time to be you. And as such, this is the best time to make a better you, a more authentic you, a more genuine you, a more sincere version of yourself. I pray that today that higher version of yourself will be revealed to you just a little bit, enough for you to respond to it, enough for you to accept it, enough for you to take an authoritative and decisive step deeper into the beauty and the majesty of being yourself. Ashe. Okay, we're just going to give folks a little bit more. Just bear with me for about 2 more minutes. Enjoy the sweet sounds of Brother Kunde with his Dahomey and lullabies doing what they do. And then we'll get it going. Karo, good people, blessings and good morning to all of you. Today, I want to share a kind of a shadow message that has been creeping up in our worship, and I want to share what I feel to be some of the more universal, deep lessons that have been coming up for us. in our worship sessions that I think will be beneficial to the general public. You see, the title of this chat is "Freedom is a Road Seldom Traveled by the Multitudes." Freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes. You guys will remember that from a soundbite from Public Enemy, their first album, Yo Bum Rush the Show. There's a clip, a loop that they had in there that was of some revolutionary sounding brother from like the 60s or the 70s. And freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes. And they, in the classic Public Enemy style, they've got that eerie background music, and the voice just seems to be penetrating into your psyche. Freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes. Now, when that came out, of course, I was a teenager and I had no idea what they were talking about in real time. But in my spirit, I could feel it. This is real. This is a meaningful message. I just hadn't had the experiences, like most teenagers, I hadn't had the experiences to make it real for me, to have a true value for what freedom is, for what the journey is, and who the multitudes are. But in my walk with Ifa, as a devotee, as a worshiper, as a priest, as a custodian of the mysteries of Ifa, I can see that simple message, freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes, is a very important and influential message that is embedded in the very core of Ifa devotion and practice and the lifestyle. And when I say Ifa, I'm talking about the society of Orunmila. I'm talking about not Orisha in general. I'm talking about what we learn and practice as Ifa devotees. Okay, Ifa itself really, really drives home this message that freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes. And it may be replicated by other Orishas, but I'm not well versed enough in their mysteries to say authoritatively if that is the case. So let me explain to you what I mean. The custodian of Ifa, the owner of Ifa, the embodiment of Ifa is Orunmila. Orunmila Elerik, being the witness of fate. As such, we look to Orunmila for a template, an example for what Ifa looks like in action, in motion, in real time. And when we look at the verses of Ifa, there's a recurring theme wherein Orunmila is continuously being left out. Orunmila is like that little brother, that scrawny little brother who the older siblings are always leaving out. They don't want him coming on the journey. They don't want him to part of the game. They don't want him to sit next to them on the bus or on the playground. They don't want to pick him for the team. Orunmila is always getting left out. When the Orisha collected powers from Olodumare, Ofumeji is one example, Orunmila was left out. When Olodumare summoned all of the Orisha to heaven, there's several verses of Ifa that give us that. Most recently, we saw Ogbeyonu, Osa Otura, Ogunda Meji. There's a lot of verses that tell us that when Olodumare is summoning all of the divinities to heaven, somehow Orunmila gets left out. When Obatala had led the divinities on a 3-year expedition, Orunmila was left out. When the festival of the divinities was raging at the Oja Jigbo Mekun, the mythological market of the divinities, Orunmila was left out. On several occasions, I can think of Orunmila being left out of that whole party. When all of the divinities they had accumulated their power in heaven, they had manifested in the world, and they were working and making a name for themselves, a reputation for themselves, for being constructors and builders of the world that we know today. Orunmila was left out again. When Orunmila alone knew the beginning and the end of all things, and Orunmila sat and Orumila ni How do you say that? Orumila ni Orumila sighed heavily. Right? Because only he knew the beginning and the end of all things. Orumila was left out. He was in isolation. Right? There's more and more instances. If you have an Oluo, you can ask. Can you think of some examples when Orunmila was left out? When the divinities were doing all great things and Orunmila was left out? And I assure you that he will be able to tell you many more instances. Okay? But what happens in every one of those instances? Every time that Orunmila was left out, in the beginning, he ended up becoming crowned, elevated, recognized, and empowered and adorned in the end. In every one of those instances that I gave just now, in the end, Orunmila was recognized. He was crowned. He was elevated. He was adorned. Right? And what I want to draw from that, the lesson that I'm getting from that particular message is that Orunmila had to be left out of the mainstream activities. He had to be isolated from all of the, the sensations and the expressions and the accumulations. He had to be left out of all that in order to do something else. Okay? So I want you to think about what that something else must have been. Orunmila couldn't do what everybody else was doing because he was doing what he had to do. And in doing what he had to do, he was isolated from the masses, the multitudes, right? He knew what they were doing, but he couldn't be a part of it. And so the simplest message that I want to draw from that for you right now is that you could have been free a long time ago, but you're too afraid of being alone. You could have been free, but you're too afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being left out. You're afraid of standing out and being odd. You're afraid of being weird. You're afraid of being rejected. You're afraid of being overlooked. And so because of that, you won't accept the isolation that's necessary in order for you to do the things that you must do in order to become the person that you are destined to become. So when your peers are getting power, well, you want to go out there and look like you're getting power too. When the important meetings are going on, oh, you want to be a part of that meeting. You want to go and just be a fly on the wall. When people are going back and forth to Nigeria and they're taking pictures on Facebook and etc. and Instagram, or you want to be looking like you're doing that too. You want to show people that you got beads and you got pots and you got titles. You want to look like it. You naturally want to be a part of what the multitudes are doing. And that's part of a human experience. I am because we are. People are people because of other people. We desperately need one another. That's true. We can't overlook that. But there's a point at which, as the Yoruba say, Ifa tells us, 20 children can't play together as children and grow up together. Children can't play together outside all day and all night. There's a point at which you got to go home. Okay? So you got to accept that as much as you need to be a part of the group, in order for you to grow and flourish, you've got to also be willing to pull back and draw into the discipline and the focus and the clarity that will reveal to you the mysteries of your unique contribution. You could have been free a long time ago if you were not afraid of isolating yourself long enough to recognize, accept, master the art of being you. The person who refuses to sacrifice and suffer in the beginning will do so in the end, however. The person who refuses to sacrifice and suffer in the beginning will do so in the end. So you can partake of everything in your, childish state. You can enjoy the candy, you can play in the beginning, because that's what we like to do as children. We like to play. We love to play. You can spend all of your morning playing if you want. But by the evening, you know what's going to be waiting for you? All of them chores you didn't do, all that homework you didn't do, that hair you didn't comb, those teeth you didn't brush, that bed you didn't make. All of it is going to wait for you at the end. All of it. And so it is. We are children in life. In the indigenous world, when you're 40 years old, they still consider you a youth. When you're 40, when you get amongst the Yorubas, a 40-year-old is still considered a youth, let alone a 20-year-old child. You're young, right? So we're still in the morning of our life for the most part. So even when you get to be 60, you're just reaching into adulthood. You're just entering into true, authentic adulthood. So when I say that the person who refuses to sacrifice and suffer in the beginning, I'm talking about a long suffering, y'all. I'm talking about a long discipline. I'm talking about up to 40, 45, 50 years old. You got to be willing to humble yourself, to go inward, to be willing to forego and make sacrifices of your comfort and your convenience in order to discover the truth about who you are. People are children for a long time. If you look, we always look at ourselves as the mammals and compare ourselves to the giraffe and the rhino and the lion and the leopard. And you see how they grow up so quick. No, children stay young for a long time. We stay immature for a long time. We need guidance and protection for a really long time. When you're 40 years old, you still need somebody older than you to grab you by the elbow and say, no, that ain't what we do. What you talking about? Come over here and sit down. Do your chores. Do your homework. Study. Be prepared. These are all the things that we need long into our development, right? Because that kind of guidance and direction and instruction will help you to curb or even prevent one of the biggest downfalls to the Western person. Those of us who grew up in the United States, Europe, Canada, Mexico, etc. What ends up happening, particularly for us here in the United States, is that we trade the true discipline, okay? When you think about what Oromila did, that foregoing of participation, being isolated and all that, Oromila was not doing that so he could do something else. See, we aren't willing to do that. So we'll trade that real discipline, that self-mastery, for the illusion of control. We're okay with having the illusion and the trappings and the accoutrements of control instead of doing the real work to master ourselves. The illusion of control is a poor substitute for true self-mastery. As a matter of fact, your addiction to the illusion of control is what's used to manipulate you into being a volunteered slave. It's used to manipulate you into not even facing the idea of being truly free. Because the stuff that you think that you control, your cell phone password, the little money that you go to your work, your job, and they give you $3,000-$4,000 a month for you to hold on to for 30 days, and you're going to give it right back to the bank. The bank pays you, and then you give it back. It doesn't look like the bank because it's spread out over hundreds of different companies, but essentially the money's coming from the one place, and you're giving it back to the same place, and you're doing it within 30 days. They pay you, and within a month, you give all that money back. You don't have control. You're in bondage. That's not control. You're not controlling that money. You're not controlling the real content on your cell phone. Those little secrets that you think you're guarding, you don't control those things. You're in bondage to those things. In reality, the illusion of control over these little things is exactly what keeps you in perpetual bondage. Because at the very best, what they do is they provide you with convenience, access, flexibility, stimulation. But none of those things have anything to do with what Orunmila is doing when he doesn't go to the get the power from Olodumare's throne. Your cell phone and the little money you have and all the little trappings of control, whatever you think you control, those things don't have anything to do with what Orunmila was doing when Olodumare summoned him to heaven. What Orunmila was doing when he left the procession of Obatala's epic journey. Have nothing to do with what Orunmila was doing when he didn't go to the festival of the deities at the Oja Jigbo Mekun. And if you're somebody who is naturally free-spirited, this can be really, really challenging. Really, really challenging. Because what will happen? People will gravitate to you or towards you in the hopes and the intentions to capture you, and in so doing, add to their illusion of freedom. Let me say that again. If you are a naturally free-spirited person, it can be particularly challenging because people will gravitate towards you with the intents and the hope of capturing you, and in so doing, adding to their illusion of freedom. If you have a Louis Vuitton bag, this is our mindset today as it pertains to control. If you have a Louis Vuitton bag, you're rich. If you have some certain kind of industry strength blender that makes, some kind of smoothies or something, then you're healthy. If you've got this pot and these beads and this title, then you're spiritual. If you have and control this free-spirited person, then you're free. Right? If you can capture the free-spirited person and tie them down to you somehow or control them somehow, then you have the illusion. It adds to your illusion of freedom. But it's just an illusion. In reality, what you need is to join forces with other like-minded people who will genuinely share the journey of freedom with you. And this is what brings us back to the idea that freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes. It's not a road never traveled by the multitudes, but seldom. Because freedom is like love. Freedom and love, what they have in common is that they're not real until they're shared. You can't really be free by yourself. That's why Orunmila at the end always ends up being recognized, crowned, and elevated by his peers and his elders alike. He's rejoined with the group. That's always been the purpose and the goal, to be a part of the body. He shares the journey and shares the freedom. The highest expression of Orunmila's happiness and of his freedom and his love is to share who he is and what he knows and what he can do with the other divinities, with humanity, with creation, with Olodumare. So you do need to share the journey with like-minded people, with people who are going to help you create comfort. They're going to help you be protected. They're going to help you, get the kind of guidance you need. People who are going to provide you with resources and direction. They're going to be confident in themselves and you. People who would In spite, even though they've created this space of comfort and direction and invested in you, they also provide total open door policy. They'll let you go and explore and be what you need to be and have the experiences that you need to have in order to discover yourself, with the agreement and the understanding that you will be back. Right? Just one of my favorite Odu. Those who wish to go, let them go. Excuse me, it starts off with, let us do all things with joy. He wrote some rewarding. Let us do all things with joy, first of all. Those who wish to go, let them go. Those who wish to stay, let them stay. For truly, human beings were created to bring goodness into the world. So, freedom is best expressed and realized within a framework. Freedom is best realized and expressed within a framework. And a framework is a set of agreements. We agree to do certain things and we agree not to do certain things. And as long as people maintain the agreements to do and not do certain things, you're free to do, whatever you need to do. You're free to become whatever it is you need to become. Just uphold certain agreements. So that's a level of acceptance. And as much as you are accepting yourself, right, at the core, you're accepting yourself, who you are and what you need and the balance that's necessary for you to be whole. But you also are accepting the way forward. You're accepting the parameters and that's the framework, right? You accept whatever the rules are. You accept what the Odu says, right? Within our tradition, within our particular practice within the Orisha Lifestyle Academy, when we talk about accepting of this way, we're talking about accepting the Odu. What does Odu Ifa say? How is that message articulated and explained? We accept the worship and the veneration of that message. We recognize the Odu as a living deity in and of itself. We venerate and worship and celebrate and praise the spirit of the Odu as it manifests for our community. Thirdly, we implement, we activate, we carry out the duties, we serve the spirit of the Odu. We take the medicines, we do the observances, we build, we shape, we create, we do things, we activate it. It's not just a potential, it's real. We carry it out, we embody it. Those are the things that characterize the Orisha Lifestyle Academy and everyone who will come out of it. Our acceptance is the set of agreements that paves the way to freedom and allows us to travel collectively, but also respecting all of the needs of the individual, the personal needs of the individual to discover herself and himself and what they are destined to do. And so, although freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitudes, we set out to be among the few who will travel the journey of freedom together, as a group, as a body, as a unit. Aboro aboye, aboshishe.
you